Larry, I have a story to tell you.
Do
I
tell.
I just took my first actually long ride on FSD.
Oh, good for you. A little late, but rather late than never.
And only 180 miles, Larry, but it's a start.
So you did 180 miles in FSD.
I did 180 miles, never touched the steering wheel once.
Really?
Yeah,
And the brakes?
never touched the brakes.
So it was an absolutely intervention-free ride for 180 miles.
Exactly. I had a couple of little, I missed an exit. It was an exit that has been worked on recently, so the maps might have confused it.
Yeah.
And
It's a problem. These maps are a problem.
so it was a major freeway split, but it has been worked on. In fact, I missed it last time I came back from San Diego, and I've done that route, I don't know, 100 times, but it missed that. But it was like one exit up, got off the freeway, got back on the right freeway. It was no big deal, but that was the only actual mistake it made the entire time.
Mhm.
So yeah,
How comfortable were you in the ride?
well, so much nicer to not have the nag. Oh, what a difference.
Yes. Yeah.
What a huge difference that
It
made.
is a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one was in daylight, at 90 was in daylight, and 90 was at night. So I got to try both. And yeah, it's great. Super. Oh, and what I was
Yeah.
really impressed with, Larry, was some of the lane changes into traffic. I mean, they were sometimes close enough to where you might think that you might be angering the person that you're moving in on. They were,
Yeah, I've had a few of those moments. Yeah.
so, but I was impressed that it would take those shots, and it took them so smoothly. Got up to the traffic speed and didn't like slow down. It just went right in. It's very,
You
very
know, each one of us have got a particular style of driving,
sure.
and each one of us have to adjust our expectations and our preferences
Yeah.
when we do FSD, and each of us take to it differently. And it takes a little bit of getting used to letting go, of your particular approach, at what point you would start merging, at what point.
Yeah.
So if you relax that a little bit, if you relax your mind a little bit about it, it
Yep.
does awfully good.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is on chill mode, so I haven't tried it on a more
Uh,
aggressive mode.
yeah, I run it on a very aggressive mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
next time I'm going to go down there again for Christmas, so maybe I'll
Well,
put
the
it.
reason I run it on aggressive mode is the speed limit problem.
Yeah.
Right now, it does suffer from the speed limit problem. It won't get up to even the speed limit, let alone your plus 10 or your plus 15. So I will admit to you, but tell no one else that I did use the gas to get it up to the limits of speed that I wanted to.
I used the dial.
But don't tell anybody.
I used the dial. I didn't use the pedal. I didn't want to use the pedal. I wanted to be able to say I didn't touch the pedals. Bless you.
Thank you.
But I did use the dial because it was going 65. On the way down, it changes from 65 to 70, and it didn't pick up on the 70. So I used the dial to push it up. But otherwise, it got the speeds right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And what version are you running?
Oh, who knows? 5.4, I think.
Oh, okay.
5 point, but I have hardware 3 because
And hardware 4 is better than hardware 3, I will have to admit to you. But, I have a hardware 3 and two hardware 4s, and of one of which is a Cybertruck. So my hardware 3 doesn't quite do as well as my hardware 4, but it does pretty damn good.
right. Well, apparently. So, Larry, we were up 6, and then all of a sudden we were up 12 today. Dan Ives, does he get credit for the entire 6 points?
It's possible. I mean, who knows? This market, 6 points here, 6 points there, doesn't matter.
So Dan comes in and he says, "Well, no, it's the most underrated stock in the tech field, and it's going to double in the next 18 months." That was pretty clear cut.
But he hasn't changed his tune. He hasn't
No,
changed, you
no.
know.
It's just he's adding, Larry, you've advertised, you've promoted your entire life, and you can't just say it once. You have to repeat your pitch.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, it just adds to to the general impression. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
But there was this amazing, amazing uh, bot video of
Optimus
the
video.
ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
the
transition.
Optimus video with the hand
Yeah.
and the ball. I mean, that could have had an impact, although it wouldn't have had it towards the end of the day. So, maybe that's a function of Dan.
So what did you think of the Optimus video? Did you
I
have
was amazed. I honestly, when I first saw the video, I saw it sort of, not in the center of my attention, and I kind of looked at it. I thought it was a person.
yeah, it looked like a person.
I thought it was a person because, the hand was so realistic.
Yeah.
Looked like a gloved hand,
Yes.
and the action was so human-like. Wow. I was blown away, blown away. And what amazed me is how slim the wrist was,
Hmm.
given, that, all of these tendons or,
Right. Attendance. Yes.
you know, uh, artificial tendons are traveling through the wrist. And so all of these motions are being induced by those tendons,
Hmm.
much like it's done in the human body. I thought it was just an amazing video. Amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Somebody put up a comment later that seemed like they knew what they were talking about. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they were saying that ultimately the Optimus will have none of that stuff exposed. So it will be it won't you won't be looking at its joints and its motors and all of this. That'll all be
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what we'll see is a more and more human-like form. Um, I mean, somebody made the point, well, you could just dress the guy up or dress the Optimus up in, women's clothes or men's clothes or whatever. But I think that they're going to do what you said is, clothe it, give it an outer body it's much less robotic like. Yeah.
right. Right. Yes. Well, and they might clothe them also. I mean, might as well have them fit in.
Well, it would be easier to clothe them than to try and give them a smooth skin throughout. So who knows what they'll do.
So we read
You
today
know the trouble with clothing?
it gets snagged.
Laundry.
Laundry. Yeah, it gets old. You have to replace it. Yeah.
Yeah.
XAI, according to rumors, okay, I don't think it was a rumor. I think maybe it was just a rumor. XAI is in talks with Tesla. I thought that was pretty funny. Is Elon calling Elon? Hey, Elon, I'd like to be able to buy some. So that my number one hope right now, I've got lots of hopes for Tesla, dealing with the semi truck, dealing with the eventual Optimus and what it's going to be able to do. But my number one hope, you've heard me say it, I want the Optimus and the car. I want that my mother the car moment. I wanted to talk like a friend and be able to respond. And yeah. So do you think that's what X and XAI are talking? I mean, Tesla and XAI are talking about, or do you think there's something else going on?
Look, the integration of the LLM with the embodied AI has got to come
Yeah,
from a lot of perspectives.
right.
And so one thinks about how that's going to happen from a corporate point of view.
Right.
And particularly if Elon wants to get into the business of, having having an inference service,
Mhm, mhm.
then inference service should be best run by XAI, but should be using Tesla hardware.
Right.
So there are multiple points of connection.
Mhm, mhm.
And so you can think about SpaceX and Tesla sharing, the materials science group.
Right.
And so I think it's the same thing. I think that there's such commonality in functionality, where the rubber meets the road, where embodied AI meets language models. So it makes a lot of sense for Tesla to have a piece of 𝐒𝐚𝐴I, and maybe 𝐒𝐚𝐴I have a piece of Tesla. Time will tell. I mean, I'm an investor in both companies. I don't even know which is bigger right now because it's so difficult to really pin that down. But it seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot to ask Bradford last night. There's this new, because I didn't quite understand it, or at least I'm not sure I understood it. So there's this $10 a month thing where Tesla is going to pay us $10 a month. And they're paying us because they're charging the third party providers of potential stuff that's going to go on our screen. Did I get that right?
Well, those providers may put that stuff on the screen, but there may also be insurance companies that are subscribing for the purpose of underwriting.
Oh,
As an example, I mean, there are plenty of examples. There could be people who, tracking safety. There could be people who are tracking insurance claims. There could be people. I mean, there are a whole lot of reasons for people tapping the Tesla APIs.
nice.
And so the point is, if Tesla's going to sell the API app access
Yeah.
to a developer, then it has to get our permission, or it has to inform us, at the very least, inform us.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so this is their way of rewarding us for the use of that API. Now, I've heard a lot of complaints from people who currently are using Tesla data, who understood that in due course they would have to pay Tesla for the API. But some of them are bleating pretty loudly that this is going to be far higher in cost than they
I
can
see.
afford given their economics.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, I guess in that case, they would be negotiating with the company and saying, you know, we
Sounds like the gap is so large
oh, it's
that
that
I'm not
far.
sure that,
Oh,
yeah, I'm not sure there's a negotiation
I see.
opportunity. I mean, one company claimed that it would cost them $1.5 billion.
Billion.
Yeah. To
Oh,
access the quantity of data that they're accessing right now. So it's a pretty big gap.
well, I'd be willing to give up access to the data on my car just in trade for the $10 a month that I don't pay to get the whatever it's called, the entertainment center stuff. So I guess I'd be willing to trade it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's called premium access. You pay $10 a month for premium access, and this is an opportunity to earn that $10 back. And it could be much more than $10 because if
Right.
10 people access it, could be $100. That could be a quite significant amount of money. I think the most useful access for it will be people who want to use the robotaxi and provide that service. I think that's where Tesla's going with this. And so if you want to put a robotaxi
Right.
onto your app and not use the Tesla app,
Mhm, mhm.
say Uber wants to go directly instead of embedding. My argument is I think they will embed the Tesla app, but maybe they will go direct,
Mm,
use their app, and just use access the APIs. They would definitely pay the money that
yeah.
Tesla's charging, and I think that's the pricing. That's how Tesla have set the pricing based upon that particular use case. And the other use case, I think they've set the pricing is for insurance purposes.
Okay.
And the thing about insurance purposes, whether the insurance company will just use that access for a particular accident or event, or whether that's, I
Just
I don't think that's an API. I think that's using data that may have been captured. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this API includes stored data in the Tesla
Mm,
mainframe or in the Tesla data center or online data. I'm not sure what the difference is. So I have no idea what that architecture looks like. So insurance companies can and do request data from Tesla for certain events. And
right.
Tesla does provide that.
Mhm.
And there are startups around that access, the ability to access that data and to arbitrate uh, insurance claims, for example.
Yeah.
So those exist already, and for them, this API will prove very useful
Hmm.
and far less expensive than it would be for somebody who wanted, a much broader real-time access over a long period of time. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how much Tesla will have to give
Yeah.
to, legacy players in the space.
So Brian Wong and I like to think about what the future is going to look like with regard to all these changes. And one of the things that Brian came up with a while ago was he says, well, it's going to be an ownership culture. So if you don't have a job, you'll own a couple of robots, or you'll own a couple of cars, or and you'll lease them out, rent them out, whatever the case may be.
Nice idea.
Yeah. So it looks to me like what I should be telling my grandchildren right now is they just need to buy some Teslas because they're going to get money from inference. They're going to get money from putting it out as a taxi. They're going to get money from the API side.
Be a little cautious because they don't want to buy a current version of the car for and think they're going to get revenue for inference.
Okay, they need the engine
Inference needs a lot of memory, and so
working five.
I, the people who've said that it will be on AI 5, I don't know this for a fact.
I see. Okay. Anyway, it's an interesting idea that you could live off of.
It's not a bad idea at all. It's correct. I think that time is coming.
So, Larry, I have been around a long time, and you've been around a long time, and plus two. I keep reminding you of that.
Yeah.
That you are the older, my elder. Larry, I have never, ever seen as much excitement about a change of government, about the economy. And I'm not talking about Republicans. I'm talking about the headlines. I'm talking about, because, I read 200 headlines.
Yeah.
I mean, there's excitement everywhere.
It's
Um,
true. It's true. But don't underestimate the excitement that came with Kennedy. There was a lot of excitement.
I know you were a lot older than me, but I was a very young man. There was a lot of excitement with Reagan, but
I was going to mention him next. So there was a lot of excitement with Kennedy, a lot of excitement with Reagan. And don't underestimate, because you're on the wrong side of it, the excitement that came with Clinton.
oh, okay.
So, with a large change in direction you know, of a philosophy, I think there's this kind of excitement. Now, we haven't seen the excitement on this side of the aisle since Reagan. That I will stipulate. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the Bushes were ho hum, in a way, somewhat negative, and we didn't have very many great on the Republican side. We didn't have very many great candidates, and other than Clinton, I must say that the Democrats didn't have. Now, there was a huge amount of excitement with Obama, huge
Right,
amount of excitement.
right, right.
And he raised the excitement level very high with what was a brilliant acceptance speech.
Yes, yes.
So I think we have to rein in our,
But the excitement with Obama was about the idea, I think.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so then,
listen, he was a great orator. He was
yes,
a
he
great
was.
orator.
Yeah, absolutely. Fox Business says this. They say, citing four sources close to Trump's transition team, Dimon has served as a
Jamie
sound
Dimon. Hmm.
yes, for the president-elect for months. on issues such as reducing government spending, tax policy, trade, and banking regulations. One source claimed that Trump has what they described as a man crush on Dimon. It says,
So do I. I think Jamie Dimon's one of the greatest CEOs in corporate in banking history.
so then Jamie says this. He's quoted, "Take a step back, be honest. Trump was the kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. He grew the economy quite well. Trade tax reform worked. He was right about some of China. And he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues." So that's a kind of a
He is so right. I mean, that's what turned me around about Trump. You know, I was a never Trumper, as you know.
Right.
And you know, on this channel, you've seen me change my tune about Trump quite a lot because
Yes.
I was a never Trumper. I did not like the man. I had a lot of animus towards him. And I've changed my tune. And he is correct. Jamie Dimon is absolutely correct. If you do a study of the policies implemented, never mind the drama and that surrounded him, but if you actually look at the policies that he implemented, he did some really, really good things. Now, his entire administration was, you know, covered in drama, and also we had the pandemic, and he didn't handle the pandemic well, but you know, I kind of give him, you know, a pass on that because of the influence that, you know, that was brought to bear on him under very difficult circumstances. But yeah, I mean, he got some really, really important things done. And what Dimon doesn't talk about, or I haven't seen him talk about it, and maybe he did now, but Trump changed our view on China. Trump helped us drop the scales over our eyes about China and, you know, expose China for what it was doing fully,
Yeah.
which we kind of knew, but we were kind of okay, but you know, they get a pass because they're China. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm 100% with him. 100% with him.
Yeah, okay. So then, according to Gasparino's sources, Trump greatly appreciated Dimon saying those things. But that's just one more kind of member of the team, if you will. So if he and Jamie Dimon are, you know, buds, in addition to Musk, in addition to Vivek, in addition to, of course, the Vice President J.D. Vance, in addition to this marvelous cabinet that he's assembled, I mean, that alone, I mean, we got to always keep in mind how important we know how important the manager is, but we've got the manager in Trump, but now the team that he's assembled, you know, it's New England Patriots time.
You may be right. Look, nobody can tell what the dynamic's going to be once Trump enters the White House. I mean, we had a lot of chaos in the White House, the last administration, a lot of chaos. And, you know, whether it was the bullet that changed Trump's demeanor, whether it was, I don't know what it was, but his demeanor has changed. And maybe his demeanor has changed because my view of him has changed.
And maybe it's because he's 8 years old.
Yeah.
Older. It could be that part of it too.
I don't know, but his demeanor, to me, his demeanor seems to have changed. And there's not the sense of crisis or the sense of hysteria, not even hysteria. What is the sense? The sense of lack of cohesion.
Right now, it looks like it is well planned, executing on all cylinders. Boom, boom, boom.
And did you see that the Trump team have declined any federal aid in the transition?
Yes, he had said that before.
Yeah, but what that means is they do not sign the non-disclosures and the limitations of action
I see.
that they would have to sign in order to meet with the their opposite numbers, or the outgoing administration. So they're declining to meet with the outgoing administration.
Wow.
They're declining to be briefed by them.
Wow.
And they're paying for all the transition stuff themselves.
Right.
This tells us that there is going to be a lot of house cleaning, a lot of house cleaning.
There was some headline the other day that said that Vivek is now looking at $1 trillion on day one.
I can't find it.
I mean, I know.
I can't find it. I cannot find it. I listened to the BG2 podcast. You listen to it before? I listened to the BG2 podcast where Brad showed, that if they just simply increased growth by 3% per year, not increased growth, if they grew 3% per year and they cut by 3% a year, that they would actually meet, they would close the gap and they would keep the country growing very nicely. I don't believe those numbers, because it means they would have to cut 3% across the board, including entitlements and including healthcare. And I don't think you can cut those by 3% per year.
Yeah, I don't know. I just listened to it when it's coming back from San Diego yesterday, so I haven't really gotten a chance to look into the details of that. Okay, so there was another billionaire, another iconic name in the Valley, who was interviewed on Rogan. I'm assuming you listened to the Marc Andreessen interview.
I haven't listened to the whole interview, but I've definitely listened to the piece that they're playing over and over and over again.
So Larry,
Yeah.
listen, if this had been anybody but Marc Andreessen, I probably would have just turned it off and thought, oh, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about? They're not trying to give all of the AI business to 3 companies and using regulation to shut everybody else. They're not debanking companies in the Silicon Valley. All that, it sounds like a big conspiracy theory, but this was Marc Andreessen.
Well, he was fact-checked on the issue of debanking.
He was, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if the community note's been published or not yet, but the draft I saw talked about, he said that it's the CFPB that is forcing the banks to debank these people. The head of the CFPB, Patel, said, no, we're trying to stop the banks from debanking these people.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that it's the banks that are debanking the people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I happen to know, because we wrote the software, we wrote the software, that the banks have got this, onboarding process, very, very, very detailed onboarding process, where they rate the risk.
Okay.
And not only is it onboarding, but they constantly reviewing the customer. There's an annual review. I don't even remember what the review, how frequently reviews happen, but the onboarding is very rigorous. And then the review of the customer, which happens at frequent intervals, is slightly less onerous, but it's quite comprehensive. The point I'm trying to drive at is that the banks themselves write these rules. The banking regulator, then, which is the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, then review those rules and sign off on them, and then the banks administer those rules. And it's the banks that debank these people who, for example, sell cannabis or, are politically exposed persons. And so they make those determinations, and how those people score, given all the risks, determines whether the bank is prepared to write them or not write them, or bank them or not bank them.
Right.
So so in that particular case, Andreessen was fact-checked and found that, he was talking about CFPB doing this, but the Patel of the CFPB says, no, we're actually the other side of the coin. We're trying to get people back. So I don't know about the rest of what he said, and so I haven't checked that. But look, Marc Andreessen, I put a lot of faith in what he says, even though if he got this little fact wrong. What is true is people are being debanked. And people are being debanked because these institutions are extraordinarily sensitive to some of what's going on in terms of, multiple different pressures on them, including DEI pressures.
Right. Yeah. In ESG, I assume would have also possibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah.
And so.
And also political. I mean, they have built into the system now political bias.
Right.
And the political bias, which was considered okay when it was biased against, say, terrorist organizations,
Right.
that has become widened and widened and widened to take into account, DEI issues.
So then he goes on to say, okay, listen, in the internet age, this is pretty bad, that it's the fact that the government might be fiddling around with who gets banked or fiddling around. But he says in the AI age, now we're talking about the AI is going to impact our education.
Yep.
It's going to impact the way that our front door either opens or doesn't open because whether our thermostat works. I mean, when Elon has talked about his fears of AI, he hasn't really talked about that part.
I think it goes far beyond AI. I think it goes to the issue of the connected state.
Yes.
The state is connected and will have AI, but right now the state is connected in so many ways. Look, you only have to look at what's going on in Great Britain today. I mean, it is horrendous. I thought of settling in that country. I spent a year in that country before I settled here. And even then, I was very, very concerned about government overreach. And that was 40 years ago, 42 years ago.
Right.
And the times have changed. And so, yeah, I mean, the ability of government, look what's happening in Australia today.
Crazy. Or Canada.
Canada's gone crazy. So, we should be thankful for what happened in this election. We ducked a bullet.
Yes.
We really, really, the whole country ducked a bullet. People who are on the left and who are still mourning the loss should rethink where they are in this regard right now. Anyway.
And Andreessen was another one who was, he voted for Biden, he voted for Obama, and he's now he's come on over and said what you just said. He said we dodged a bullet. I mean, he didn't use those words, but he said basically we should be very happy the election turned out the way that it did.
Very grateful. Yeah. Look, and we may turn out to have made a mistake, and we may turn out to be wrong. Who knows? All I know is that the signs so far are good. The person coming into the presidency now appears to be a different person from who came into the presidency in 2016.
Right.
That's my honest opinion.
Yeah. Well, for one thing we know for sure, he's better prepared. He's already been
No
there,
doubt.
already done
No
that,
doubt.
and he's picking his own team, and so that alone should be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, the market this week, we expected volatility, we got volatility. We expected volatility on Tesla, we got volatility on Tesla. So we ended up with the Dow all-time highs, NASDAQ all-time highs, S&P, I think all-time highs. I'm not positive about the S&P, but they're all three. If they're not, they're close. Dow up 188, NASDAQ up 157, S&P up 33. Tesla up $12.27, and another 24 cents in the AH. They've said it again, Larry. They've been approved to go to 22-hour trading.
God help us.
The SEC has approved it. So maybe January 1, I don't know. We'll have.
Is this all markets or just the NASDAQ, or just, is it all markets?
No, I didn't pay attention to that. I don't know.
Ask Rock.
I'll ask Rock later. Yes. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Okay. The Magnificent Seven did fine, except for Google, who was down 33 cents. The Cathie Woods did fine, except for basically Square, which was down only 23 cents. So, I mean, basically, all boats rose in this marvelous market that we're in right now. We had the bonds also continuing the rally, Larry. This is good news. Down 6.4 basis points on the 10-year.
That's a very, very important piece of news. Yeah.
We're in the 4.1s now, 4.178. Who knows? Maybe we could be in the 3s. We could be 3.99 or something. No, you don't think so?
By inauguration day, maybe.
Inauguration day. There you go. So will peace help the bonds come down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we got Hezbollah at peace. Well, theoretically, we'll see what happens. We've got the Gaza Strip. We got Hamas maybe saying that they would like to follow suit because they got no support anymore.
Well, the bad news is the Syrian war is heating up. I mean, you laugh, but it's very, I mean, it's an incredibly serious war because, Iran, I mean, this is putting enormous pressure on Iran. It's putting enormous pressure on Russia.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen, but it definitely helps Ukraine. And by the way, Ukraine said today that Russian casualties exceeded 2,000 for the first time. One day's casualty exceeded 2,000 for the day. Now, some people don't put much store by what Ukraine claim, but if you look at the Ukraine's claims over the years, they've been pretty constant down. They used to be at 500 a day. They got to that, 1,000 a day. Then they got to 1,200 a day. And ever since this long summer and fall advance that Russia had on the whole front, the casualty rates climbed, but the casualty rates hit a new high.
Wow.
So
I saw a headline, Larry. I didn't have time to look at it. Maybe you did have a chance to look at it. And it said that Zelensky said, I'll give up some territory if I can join NATO. Do you think that was a true headline?
What he said is that he would, for the purpose of peace, agree not to have NATO implemented in the occupied territories, but to have it implemented on the main, on the unoccupied area of Ukraine. His idea being that way any action in the occupied territories would not trigger Article 5.
Okay.
And only if Russia advanced beyond the whatever the line is, would Article 5 be triggered. I think it's a very clever idea because what it does is that it makes it impossible for Russia to advance further without triggering Article 5. But it doesn't impinge upon Russia's supposed rights in the territory that they do occupy. There's definitely a give on his part. It's obviously not going to be sufficient for Putin because it brings NATO up to his borders, which is what he did fought this war.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. We got oil, interestingly, given that there's peace breaking out all over. We do have the Brent at almost $5 higher than Texas Intermediate. Now maybe that's Syria, because Syria might impact the oil prices more.
It is absolutely Syria. You know,
Okay.
we're entering a winter, and I don't know if you saw it, but winter drawdown of natural gas stocks in Europe were very high
Oh, okay.
in the last couple of weeks, in the report that came out today. So that could be impacting gas prices, gasoline prices, or oil prices.
Mhm.
So you've got two things happening. You've got this war in Syria hotting up. You've got, the drawdown of gas in Europe. And so we may be seeing Brent reacting to that. I'm not sure whether the American oil price rose. So what happened in
So we're still sitting at $68. So we're well under 70, and it went down today 57 cents. Now Argentina said
yeah.
they're pumping. Uh,
Yes, I
yeah,
saw that pumping, but I don't think that would have a huge impact in West Texas.
not now, but it could have an impact because he's talking about getting up to 1 million barrels a day.
Yeah, it could have an impact, but I think that the proximate cause
Right.
of
Right.
of Brent prices is what's happening in Europe.
Right. Okay. And natural gas, as you point out, up 5% today
There you
at,
go.
at $3.37. So
Yeah.
gold up a bit, 2,673. It seems to have settled down. It's not being quite as erratic right now.
Yeah.
Silver, though, starting another run, 1.78% today, $31. And copper up.
Well, that's kind of a late rise, because gold has risen in recent weeks. Yeah.
And copper
And
up.
and by the way, that's really what the pattern has been historically. Gold would rise and then silver would follow. I mean, silver was front running gold for a very short period, just the last year, and it's not historically how it's worked.
Right. And copper up 0.1%. But still, it's at $4.14. So that's a
It's constantly showing that the world is not in recession yet,
yeah,
or at all.
yeah. Apparently, overall, yeah. And Bitcoin is trying, Larry. 97,370. It's why even talk about what it's up or down? It's everybody's only concentrating on one number, 100,000. If it's either
I
up.
had this tiny investment in Bitcoin, and I finally today got to checking out how it's doing. It's doing very well.
Doing very well. Yeah. I hope my $10 is doing well.
Oh, your $10.
$10, yeah.
Yeah. Mine may be a little bit more than that.
Well, everybody's more than that. So I was gifted. Somebody they
And
wanted me to have some Bitcoin in my life.
not your sons by any chance.
No, it was actually, I forget the guy's name. I should really know because he gifted me the book about how to understand the whole thing. And then he gifted me $10 worth of Bitcoin.
And the question, did you read the book?
I'm on chapter 4 now.
There you go.
I found out why gold was so important for so long. And,
Oh, yeah.
so now I've not that I have a fairly good background in understanding money, Larry, but there's always another level you can learn.
I have a book called The History of Money,
Okay.
which I will gift you.
Okay. Don't send me a book. Send me the, what do you call it? The
Audible.
Audible or the what do you call it? The
PDF?
Kindle. The Kindle or
The Kindle. Or do you listen to Audible or do you read Kindle?
I probably read Kindle more, but I'm getting more inclined to go Audible. But I don't read a book anymore. I don't know why. I can't read.
No, I can't read a book either. But I will tell you that Audible has made my road tripping so fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I listen to podcasts in my car all the time, but yesterday, if I would have had the Audible of the book, I would have used it on the
There you
way.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Larry, last chance. Anything you want to add, subtract, something I forgot to talk about?
I think we should hold some sort of competition to see who can guess when what date Elon will finally leave Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, we'll have a pool for that, Larry.
And on that note,
Okay, on that note, but I do want to add that CERN Basher will be on later tonight. So people definitely they want to hang around for that. Larry, we're going to talk about what I had on my posting all this week about what to do when you have millions, because everybody has millions now. If you're not a millionaire today, you're not even in the game. So if you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million, and you're trying to figure out how to give it to your kids, your grandkids, et cetera, and how you do that, and how you don't turn into messing up their lives by giving them a bunch of money. So Cern and I are going to bat that around tonight. And Cern, of course, is a financial advisor. So he does this for a living and has for many, many, many decades. Well, okay, not that many, but but anyway, so I think it's a very, very good show. So people should not hang around. They should come back in a little while and check that one out.
great. I'll give it a watch.
Okay, Larry, thank you so much. And
Thanks, Randy.
to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.